Hello and welcome, everybody out there in Union Arena Land. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. So, today we have something a little bit different for everybody. As you can see on my screen, there is a tier list, but this is not my tier list. This is the tier list of somebody who went to the event by the name of Weeaboo inside of Discord, who managed to make it into the top 50. I've gathered tier lists from people of different perspectives of different performings within the major Gen Con event that we just had in order to try to see what their perspective of the meta looks like and what they're anticipating things they're going to have to play against when they go to the next regionals, which is Dallas. So, this is the first one. Weeaboo is the lowest ranking person on the entire map, but out of everybody I've talked to, he seems very well versed in the game itself. Very, very adaptive to different metas, open to different play styles, and I think those are some valuable insights that, well, we can clearly see in the tier list that he had managed to make. So, I managed to get together with a bunch of these people and ask them what their tier lists looked like. And I gave them criteria in order to make whatever the tier list is going to look like. Tier 0 means with few brain cells, you win over the rest of the decks without even trying. Tier 1 is if you play this with minor skill, you win more than you lose. And tier 2 is if you play and pilot the deck, you can beat the tier 1 due to meta. Some people call that counter picking, some people have different opinions of it, but we have the first person on the list who did not put anything into tier 0. Now, this is in anticipation of AoT dropping and Code Geass Volume 2 dropping, but by the looks of it, he seems most worried about us running into the green CG deck. Lancelot, I think it's called. Yeah. And to be fair, that is the one that most people seem to be afraid of coming up very soon. That being the first one on the list, it's going to be a very terrifying deck to play with. It has 8 2-drop double energy producers in the deck now. So long as they can get to 8 energy, they can drop a 5k who blows something up on play and then gets to attack with double damage and impact. A card like that is just going to be so backbreaking to our current meta and format that I kind of agree that it belongs at the very top of tier 1, if not tier 0 within our meta. Clearly, Roy is something that he's anticipating to run into and run up against. And I mean, after its performance at Gen Con, yeah, you need to be aware of Roy. Roy is terrifying. If they don't remove him the turn he comes into play, you're not going to lose the game. It's so hard to lose the game when you are playing a blue deck that they don't remove the character when he comes in. Now, there is going to be a lot more meta picking, which I think he definitely saw coming, which is why there's been a few other boosts to certain decks. We're looking at Rukia because Rukia has that terrifying line of text that says, all right, well, your Roy is not going to be able to attack me. Your 5k is not going to be able to attack me. It is a catch-all answer to so many things, and Ichigo is a terrifying threat. Now, in my experience, blue, I guess we call that trio. Yeah, blue trio is a very terrifying deck to play against unless you're playing 8 removal, like majority of the decks we have in the format. I don't agree with his pick of putting that onto tier 1, but clearly he performed a lot better than I did. I didn't even go to the event, so it is worth noting and be aware that people are aware of this deck. Putting Sukuna this high, though, I think I get it. I don't think pure Sukuna is the deck that people need to be afraid of more than anything else. I think Sukuna Nanami, especially with that new Nanami, is going to be the powerhouse that screws so many people up. The problem with Sukuna was it was the deck that had the best life triggers. And if you high rolled getting your fingies, well, you finger your Yuji and then you Sukuna on your shrine, and hey, look at that, you won the game. But now decks are being much more aggressive, much more explosive, a lot more attacks early game, and we are getting so many bigger decks that you have less ways of interacting with. If Lancelot hits the battlefield, you can't raid Yuji and go, bounce your raider. No, he's a 5k, he stays in play. So it's going to be a lot harder for decks to react to that, and I think pure Sukuna is a much more reactive deck. On the other hand, though, they do have the 5-drop Sukuna who's able to frost something and sticky rest it for a turn. That's pretty good. Toto being a high up on this list, I mean, that just makes sense. Toto is the best deck, I think, if you're trying to beat the meta, but you need to put in the work and put in the hours to be able to get good with it. It is a terrifying deck to be able to manage. Attack on Titan Red, I think it's 109th is the name of the deck. Yeah, I mean, that's terrifying as well. And Squad Zero, nobody can argue, is not a top tier deck. It is going to be near the top of our meta no matter what. Gwaine Gurren, I am intrigued to see that he put that up there after the last showing. Gwaine Gurren kind of fell off really, really hard. And not going to lie, I'm kind of happy about that, but that's just me. um, it seems much more reactive to things, but yeah, and Asta coming in, that makes a lot of sense too. Anything that says your Roy can't attack. I mean, after Gen Con had so many Roys in the top 15, you have to be afraid of it. You have to be aware of it. Putting Saitama that high up there, that is what really intrigues me. We are finally getting true aggro decks in our meta, and Saitama historically has suffered against decks like Sputasonic, which is very aggressive, Megami, which is very aggressive. But it is a deck that ultimately, if you can pop off and do your big thing, you're going to be able to hit people hard and fast. Now, looking at the Attack on Titan side of this, there are 3 of its decks put into the tier 2 category. And to reiterate, everything that's going to be shown on these lists, these players believe you should be afraid of, you should be aware of, you should practice against them, and know how to play against them. We have the Levi deck, which cheats AP advantages by doing a whole bunch of silly things when you move to your attack step, getting AP back. When you attack, spend an AP to gain a benefit. Lots of scary things happening with that deck. I haven't put a lot of time and effort into learning how to pilot it or how to really play against it, but it sounds like a deck that if it goes off, it is going to just overrun you with value. And, well, I mean, that's most decks in our format. Um, there's also really big dumb green Attack on Titan deck. It is the second biggest deck, I think, in Union Arena behind Saitama itself. It is a deck that if you are not anticipating how to play against it properly, you are going to get ran over. It's good to see that that deck is put in there. It's similar to Lancelot, but harder to pull off. So I do agree that I think Lancelot needs to be higher up on the tier list than the other green Attack on Titan deck is. The last one that he's putting in here that people need to be aware of is, the girl power deck, I guess. Historia and Ymir, I think it is. Yeah, I mean, looking at that deck for JP, it is utterly insane in Volume 2. Without one card that allows you to cheat characters into play utilizing events, it does fall off quite a bit, but I think the deck still has a lot of legs that if you can get enough events into your sideline, the cards that you are playing are generating such massive advantage for you, it's going to be hard for your opponent to keep up. So yeah, this is the first of all of them. Now, the next person that I asked to send me over their tier list is Legit Vocals. I believe he was 32 or around 32 at Gen Con playing Green Saitama. And that is a deck that I always give kudos to people for being able to pilot. I try it, I can play it, but I cannot play it at the top tier like so many other people can. It is, in my opinion, the hardest deck to pilot that we have in North America. It is just so difficult to do. So hearing his perspective of this and what decks you need to be afraid of, I think is going to be very good and crucial as well. He put 109th at the top of tier 1. That is terrifying. So I know that this deck likes to use its special to cheat characters into play, and then when characters come back to your hand at the end of the turn, you get certain advantages based off of the cards that you are playing and utilizing. Very interesting to see that all the way at the top of the list. I mean, if we are heading into a more aggressive meta, that's just good for our format, right? It means all of the reactive decks need to be reacting harder and faster, and they can't really take a turn to play a site to start generating those advantages like Squad Zero's been doing. I think it would be really healthy for our format if we get that. He also put Asta as the second best deck. Now, I'm unsure, but maybe perhaps this is because we're going to have the 3-1 Asta legal by Dallas. Maybe? I thought it came out in October, but if it came out sooner than that, then yeah, Red Asta is going to be terrifying. All of your When I Attack cards are going to be able to get shut down super easily by Asta. You have the other Asta that is going to be able to be raided and kill your 4K. Just pop it off and kill it. Very interesting to see him put that up there. Roy obviously deserves to be at the top of the list. Squad Zero moving down. I think if we are heading into a more aggressive format, yeah, Squad Zero gets pushed down quite a bit. Gwen being at the top, and the two Sukuna and Todos. I mean, all of that seems very reasonable to me. There's a second red deck that he has put in here. I believe that one is the Go Big Irwin deck. Is it Irwin or whatever the main character guy? I forget his name. He screamed a lot and cried a lot. That's all I remember about him. Um, yeah, I mean, if that deck's going to be performing well, we definitely need to look into that and see why it's going to be so good. I thought it just seemed like a big red deck similar to Garu, but perhaps it has more legs than Garu did, and perhaps it has more enablers than Garu does as well. Putting in the Armored Titan and yeah, the three Malayan soldiers, I think it is, something like that. Yeah, that deck is going to be terrifying. It's certainly one that we're going to have to look at and make sure that we are aware of in our meta. Lance down in tier 2. Now, that one seems to be a bit more of a hot take than many of the other decks. I think if people are practicing with Lance right now, it is going to become a terrifying deck because it's so hard to react to. But if you play aggro into it, you should be very likely to be able to take over the game and beat it. Malayan soldiers should be better than Lance into aggro because Malayan soldiers can blow up 0 cost by raiding their big fat Titan. That's what his win played is destroy all 0 costs on the front line. Yeah, that's going to be hard to beat. Putting the Historias Historia Girl Power over Levi. That's another interesting take. Now, I mean, that might just be because I know he played Tornado Sisters for a long period of time, and he was really, really good with it. And the deck is piloted similar to that with, I think, less card draw, but way more power full attacks and meaningful impacts in the deck itself. Very interesting to put him both in there. And looking over this, I mean, yeah, there's the one deck that's Stray in tier 3. If you're a one trick and you're going to be good with that deck, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it does. I looked at it and I was like, that guy has long arms and looks goofy. And I just gave up, honestly. But yeah, a lot of one trick decks that I agree with this. If you are good with your one trick, you are going to be very good inside of this event. I am, well, not exactly a one trick, but a Metal Bat fanatic. And I'm one of those people, if I'm put into any competitive setting, if I'm allowed to play Metal Bat into them, I'm going to be confident in 90% of my matches. Now, there are bad matches for it, but I'm going to be confident because I know how to play it and I know my opponent can't. So be aware of the one tricks. I think that's what he's mostly iterating out of this. Be aware of them and be ready to deal with them as well. So moving right along, that was legit vocals. Next up, in no particular order for the top performing people, I think we're going to go over to Kazrig. Now, he was in the top 16. And he put something together that I find very interesting for his tier list. He changed his perspective of things just a little bit, but I like how he changed it a lot. He put Roy at the top, brain cells who need him. I'm going to disagree with that. I think Roy, to be played at the highest caliber, requires a lot of forethought. It's just, if you don't have to play against high caliber players, it's very easy to just win the game with. Pure Sukuna, again, everybody seems very hype on the Pure Sukuna coming back. I'm really wondering why that's going to be affecting our meta differently with the newest releases that are coming out. Outside of that, we have the Asta deck. Again, if we're getting that 0 cost, the Asta deck is going to be terrifying to deal with. And Squad Zero, I agree. If you hit sight on turn 2 or turn 3 with Squad Zero, your opponent has to find out how to win the game. It just immediately puts you super far ahead. Now, of course, we are running into more aggressive decks showing up, so hopefully those will be able to put sights into their place. I'm really hoping for that. Tier 1, you can fling cardboard. Okay, yeah, I agree with this. If you're going to be good, you're going to be good with any of these decks. And if you specialize and adapt to them, these are going to be decks that you can profitably win with. I mean, we saw that there was a Toshi player in top 16. I can't wait to have a sit down chat with him about that. It's a very good deck. It's very hard counter to Roy. Being able to go Frost your Roy, he's not untapping next turn. Frost your backline, they're not untapping either. And then smash into your opponent is something that a lot of decks find backbreaking and allows you to push up and be more aggressive and smash in and win with. We also see that the Ashford Academy deck was moved up here. That is really good. I mean, yeah, aggro decks are good and it's only getting better. In fact, I think later today I'm going to be recording a video speaking with someone about, well, all of the Code Geass decks. And yeah, if Ashford Academy is getting any amount of support, any amount of love, oh boy, you're going to have to be ready for that because our meta is going to be shaken. King and Kimley, I respect that he put this in here. He and I talked about it after I interviewed him for his playing Yellow Saitama. King and Kimberly is a terrifying deck. It is a deck that requires a lot of skill to pilot, a lot of good intuitive plays, and you need to be able to think a turn or two ahead. But it comes down to the fact that it plays almost exactly like Gwaine Gurin, but it's bigger with a 4.5k body, and it has better impact. It selects when it has impact instead of just on play. Meaning, if your opponent leaves something like a Kimley on the field, you can just decide to, I'm going to have a point of damage this turn smashing in. It's going to be very difficult to beat this deck if you're not anticipating it. And I agree, like if people are practicing right now, practice King and Kimley. I have a deck list on my profile and I've been playing it and oh boy, I lost to a high roll. That was it. Like I played it in 2 events straight and I lost to a high roll, which I mean, that's the game, right? We love it. We play it. Again, Levi being the only AoT deck that he put on the list at all. I mean, that's that's a little different than everybody else's take and perspective on this. I respect that GGO was put onto the list as well. I agree with him. GGO is one of those decks that you need to be aware of and you need to be able to play against it in order to be good. And meta counters and sweat required. Karapika as a meta counter. Ooh. I mean, I get it. He's a 5k, right? It's a 5k sniper, so being able to take out the attack on Titan big scary things is going to be just easy for you to do. The impact over that. I'm not sure if the deck has enough support to really like push it into that further foreground. And Metal Bat. I agree, Metal Bat is a deck that people are sleeping on. No, it is not the top of tier 1. I'm always memeing when I say that, but if you one trick Meta Bat and you get really good with it, you're going to be insane. And spoilers for anybody out there who doesn't pay attention to JP, they're getting a new Metal Bat card, and it is nutty. If we get that in NA, Metal Bat gets a whole new build and a whole new breath of life because of that card, and it's going to be one of those decks that punishes heavy removal decks. It's going to hard counter them. So yeah, I think I agree with this. He's sitting here saying, "Hey, all of these decks are things you need to be aware of. You need to be terrified of." Next up, Div. Now, Div was in the top 8, and I think he's the first one of them who was in the top 8. Yep. After that, we have Hank, we have Jane, and then we have Something Fresh, who first, second, and I think like 5th or 6th. Very interesting. So all of these players are playing at the highest caliber, playing with people on the regular, speaking to people, and learning from other people. And those are the most important things. You have to be learning from people. The moment you move in and you start thinking in absolutes, you're evil. You're the Sith. You're wrong. Never assume that you're the smartest person in the room. Always seek more information, and that's how you get better at all of these games. Now, Div, you put Toto at the top of S tier. I love you. I think in your hands, you're probably right, but I don't think I'm going to put Toto at the top of S tier. I do understand why it is there. I mean, it's amazing into all the other 3 tier 1 decks that we have right here. Lancelot is an 8-drop deck. If you can disrupt their energy line, especially early, now that they're probably cutting the stepper because there's so many better cards to be playing, yeah, it's going to be really hard for them to catch up on that. Sukuna is a deck that you can blow up their shrine so they can't play it until it's the last point of damage, and you can get double damages in, and you can provide more 4Ks, and their color trigger does nothing. Squad Zero, I I feel like I'm a broken record continuing to say this. Squad Zero is one of the best decks in our format, hands down. But if you don't see Palace on turn 2 or 3, you have to earn your win. If you see it on turn 2 or 3, your opponent has to earn the win. And that's like the make or break of the deck. This is one of the few decks in the format that can equalize and blow up the Palace. So it goes, no, 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 we're going to grind this out. And I agree that Toto is amazing into all 3 of those decks. So putting him up there means, yeah, you're anticipating running into all of these things. Moving along, we have the blue trio once again. I think that deck is terrifying to deal with. If you don't have enough removal to handle it, it's going to feel really, really, really bad. Um, for some reason, every time I play against that deck, my opponent has 3 specials, 1 in life, 2 in hand, and Ichigo attacked me 4 times. What do I do? Right? Like it is what it is. But that's the thing about the deck. If they hit their medium to high roll, it's going to be terrifying to deal with. You need special out of life. You need a more proactive game plan. You need to smash them. Speedo Sonic, it's a similar thing where Speedo has so much card advantage and is also getting a card in JP. So perhaps in NA, that'll make a difference. But until that's here, I don't see it doing anything. The Saitamas, the Gwain Gurins, the Toshi Kenpachis. Yeah, I mean, Div did not put any real emphasis on Attack on Titan whatsoever. I did ask him for an updated list. I think this is the updated list, but yeah, nothing new in here, nothing different. We have the Ashford and we have Pizza, and that's really all that he thinks we need to be worried about for this one. So perhaps Div is right. Perhaps he memed a little bit on this. Who knows? But I mean, we're gonna have to find out, aren't we? Moving along, we have only 3 more to get through, everybody. This one here is Hank's tier list. Hank was, I believe, the top performing Squad Zero player that we had. Had the pleasure of interviewing him as well. That was fantastic. And he put, oh boy, wow, Gwain Gurin at the top of S tier. Wow, that is okay. I mean, he performed a lot better than me. He practices the game at a competitive level a lot more than I do, so I respect that. Mustang, I believe he deserves a tier to be within the S tier itself. And Lancelot, again, Lancelot is a terrifying deck to play against. It's just going to go big, go home, and destroy things in front of it. I don't know what the difference between these 2 decks is. I assume there's a difference come volume 2, but I don't know what it is. Squad Zero being beneath all of those other 3, I kind of agree with at least the 2. Gwain Gurin, I think that's the bottom of tier 1 at best, if not towards the top of tier 2. Toto, yes. Levi, yes. Nothing else new is really standing out to me. Oh, Kirito Switch. That is very interesting. Yeah, that is an aggro deck that if you get high rolled, you kind of just get steamrolled through and beaten. I agree with that. This is the first of the blue decks that we are seeing from Code Geass. Ooh, which one is that? I believe that's the Chinese Federation? Is that Chinese Federation? Or is that Little Brother? I don't know which one it is, but I am going to be talking to somebody about this as well. There was a deck that did a whole lot of tapping and attacking as well. If you are a reactive deck to these decks that go tap your dude, tap your dude, tap your dude, smash, 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 you're probably going to be in very, very bad strains against them. A whole bunch of other off-pick meta decks that, yeah, if you're one-tricking them, you need to be afraid of. Yawatch, Big Yellow. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I never really paid that close of attention to his entire story arc. Yeah, that's going to be one that it has a lot of ways to gain advantage off of your opponent having triggers. And right now, people are so heavy on triggers that you're gaining an advantage every turn on your opponent's turn just for having 5Ks in play. Elric Brothers, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Elric Brothers. It is so strong. Its one downside is it doesn't get to play a lot of triggers. That is very huge for it, but it gets to rush 4Ks and 3.5Ks so quickly into your opponent that if your opponent is playing a reactive deck, you get to recur your things, and they usually don't know how to rebuild from all of that. The deck is super recursive, very fast. Megami is faster. Megami is more recursive. But this one has more resilience to heavy removal decks, I feel. So yeah, it's a very interesting tier list that he had here. Now, let's go to second place, shall we? We have Jane's tier list. Now, okay, there is some difference between Jane and Hank. Okay, cool. Uh, Purple CG at the top again. Squad Zero, I agree with that one. Roy, yeah, give or take. But Jane put a much bigger emphasis on the attack on Titan decks, it seems. So she seems to be acutely aware that Historia is a deck that its medium to high roll is going to be terrifying, and it does rebuild itself pretty decently. I mean, it has a lot of card selection, it has a really good card draw spell. And then Levi is one of those decks that if your opponent doesn't know how to play against it, you're going to get steamrolled. And we saw what happened with Roy. So, yeah, be aware of it. Start practicing against Levi now. I think this is going to be one of those things that's going to take over the meta and really be able to capitalize on people's inability to predict what they are playing against. Yeah, I mostly agree with what she has here. The GGO being at the bottom of tier A, I love that. I think GGO is such a good deck. It is a bigger and, in my opinion, better Karapika. But it does need more support in Volume 2 to become that really terrifying deck that we know it's going to be. Until that happens, of course, yeah, it's going to be lower than tier S, but it's still one of those decks that can really punish your opponent, and it dodges ways to protect your characters. Any of those cards that say, you can't touch my thing on my turn, well, here's my special, I can snipe it, so yeah, I'm still going to touch it. Um, some more 109. The higher up we're getting with the people who perform, the less they are putting the 109 as a scary deck to deal with. I think there's certain levels of comfortability that people have and that they've gained against aggro decks that they'll be able to deal with it if you've practiced against them. Now, I will forewarn you, if your meta has been nothing but you playing against Sukuna, Purple CG, and Squad Zero, and now Roy since it topped, you are not ready for the aggro decks. Practice against real aggro decks and real aggro players. There's a difference between somebody who goes, I play this game on the side of One Piece and I'm going to pick up an aggro deck, and someone who mains aggro decks. There's this guy, Hyperactive Gremlin, who he plays nothing, absolutely nothing but Shikigamis. Every single person at Rumble Rama knows you have to be terrified of that. He is the aggro guy. So be aware of these decks, practice against good players with them so that you have a better chance of topping. And yeah, a lot more off meta picks. We have Goddesses, which, yeah, I think Goddesses is a scary deck. Pure Ichigo, that's interesting. Sisters, also interesting. I've seen Byakuya twice. I think Byakuya is just, he's only really good against these aggro style decks. So I am very legitimately interested to see why people put it there. Now, let's look at first place's tier list. Something fresh. Now, not for nothing, he was first place of Gen Con. He beat everyone. He's the only person who went undefeated. So he clearly knows what he's doing. He clearly knows how to look and anticipate the meta. He was on Roy and capitalized with it, utilizing a unique version of the deck as well. So be aware that what he is saying is closer to what the tier maker actual tier list should be. However, nobody in this is 100% correct because we just don't have enough large sample sizes to take from. And this is all predictive as well, isn't it? We don't have CG out yet, and that's going to be out starting next week. So maybe these are the decks that you're looking to pick up at your locals or something. Anyways, he put Lancelot as the only tier 0 deck. The deck that with few brain cells you win over the rest of the decks without even trying. I kind of agree. It is a deck that if you go, here's an 8K, double damage, impact, on play, blow your thing up. Oh, sorry, 5K. Deal with me. Yeah, you better hit a special off those first 2 life triggers. And if you don't, you better have a special the next turn. And even at that, you're still behind because he 2-for-1'd you while taking 2 life. That is a terrifying card to have to play against. If you do nothing but practice against reactive style decks, you're gonna lose. Like, you can't just be reactive in this meta. So I agree. Zero is absolutely where he needs to be. Putting in the 109th, yeah, I can see them being super aggressive. I've looked at them and I saw their special. I was like, wow, their special reminds me of Mayori, but good. What would happen if Mayori had a good special that actually played shit from your hand and drew cards? Yeah, that's what 109th looks like. Then you have the Roys, you have the purple CGs, you have the honorary Sukunas. I'm very low on Sukuna personally. I really don't think it is this high. Also, the CG. But hey, I mean, he obviously knows more than I do. He performed well. He performed the best. And then we have Squad Zero, and then we have Asta, and then we have Blue Trio. Okay, that's really nice. And then other decks that you're gonna have to be aware of. You're gonna have to be afraid of people piloting them. Yes, fear me. I am Metal Bat player. Haha. Elric siblings, yes. King and Kimley, yes. Greedword, oh, I love that deck. That deck is so good. Megami, yes. The Malayan soldiers, the Levi deck, the Historia deck, all of these are very good decks that we need to be looking at. So perhaps this is the new meta and the new tier 1 and the new tier 0 and the new tier 2 that we have. But regardless of all of this, this is just things to help you make your decision. Nobody is saying that you have to follow the tier list in order to have fun in this game. We are just simply putting things out there that you need to be aware of inside. You can play any deck and perform well. Last night, I played Blue Bomber, Volume 1 only, and I went 2-1. And I'll say up and down, I lost because of my misplay. Meh, I didn't lose, but it didn't help. Um, it is a fantastic deck, and all of these decks in this game are playable and fun so long as you main them, you get good with them, and you know your matchups. Have some level of interaction and just enjoy what you are playing. But if you want to get sweaty and you want to deal against the top of Dallas, you need to be aware of what the best performers in our meta are aware of. Thank you all for watching the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know down below. Do you agree with any of these takes? Do you think any of these people were trolling? And what other decks do you think we need to be more aware of come Volume 2 for CG? We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.